With the CFA exams now approaching in August for level 1, it is ideal that you start preparing for your level 1 exams in great detail. Well, this video will cover the 4 subjects of the morning session and the necessary tips and tricks that you should know as a candidate when preparing for these subjects. So let's get on with the video. The first subject that we want to cover today is quantitative methods that holds a weightage of 8 to 12%. Now, quantitative methods basically covers statistics. A lot of people think it's very simple to rote learn the formulas given in the textbook, practice a few questions and you're good to go. Well, that's not the approach that you should be taking. Quants has several concepts such as yield measures, value at risk, hypothesis testing, which are actually important when it comes to other subjects such as fixed income and portfolio. Rather, understand the formula, see what the constituents of the formula are, why do they come together, is there any rationale, is there any logic behind the formula. Once you're good with that, you'll also be comfortable when there are any tweaks made to the formula. So instead of rote learning 2 formulas, you'll be naturally be able to come to a conclusion when there are any changes to a formula, when the situation changes. So when it comes to quantitative methods, please practice as much as you can. That's a very standard tip for all subjects. Ensure that you understand the formula rather than you rote learn it. Second subject that we want to cover in today's video and in the morning session is financial statement analysis, which has a weightage of 13 to 17%. Now, FSA second heaviest subjects in the CFA Level 1 exam. It covers 2 primary aspects. One is IFRS, one is US GAAP. Now you need to know every standard that is covered under FSA and what is the difference between it being applied under IFRS and US GAAP. Now for example, IAS2 inventories, okay? FIFO, LIFO and AFCO is applicable under US GAAP, but only FIFO and AFCO is applicable under IFRS. So these are differences that you need to know, you need to apply. With FSA, again, the standard tip of practice, practice, practice. But the most common question and a definite question coming is, they'll give you a paragraph. What is the answer under IFRS? What is the answer under US GAAP? So ensure you're thorough, not only with the practical aspects, but also the theoretical aspects when it comes to FSA. The next subject that we want to move on for today and in the morning session, the third subject is ethics and professional standards. Now, ethics and professional standards, please ensure that you know your 7 standards of the professional code, you know your 6 code of ethics, you know your GIPS or global investment performance standards. These are theoretical based standards. Please remember, you don't need to rote learn any of these standards. Your CFA Level 1 exam is MCQ based. So again, you need to understand what a standard says and see where you can apply it. Now the best way to approach ethics is read the standard, practice a question. Read the standard, practice a question related to an example. A lot of people consider ethics to be fairly simple, but when the day of the actual exam arrives, they struggle because they've not practiced, because the questions are a little awry. Hence, the best way to practice for ethics, it is the most heavily weighted subject with 15 to 20%. Please ensure that you're practicing a lot of questions in ethics. The last subject for the morning session is economics, which holds a weightage of 8 to 12%. Please remember, with economics, it's fairly theoretical, okay? If you have pursued or if you've had economics in 10th and 12th, there are concepts of demand, supply that will overlap. It's just that the questions are MCQ based. A situation is given and you need to analyze what happens when the price changes, what happens to demand. So basically elasticity of demand, elasticity of supply is there. However, there are a few more additional topics when it comes to GDP in economics that you also need to be thorough with. A lot of people find economics to be very boring and they just start reading, but they're not really grasping information. So ensure that you're giving economics sufficient time. You're reading the concept about 2 to 3 times. Like I said, you need to be practicing the first session, the morning session. QM is 8 to 12%, FSA is 13 to 17%, ethics is 15 to 20%, economics is 8 to 12%. Practice, score well in the morning session, and you've just increased your probability to pass the CFA exam by at least 50%. Because I think these subjects constitute 50% of the exam. You do well here, you're very, very likely to pass the CFA Level 1 exam. So this brings us to the end of the tips for the first 4 subjects. If you have any further questions when it comes to these subjects, do drop a comment. I'll be more than happy to help you out. If there are any other videos that you'd like us to do, please let us know. We're also making a video on the afternoon session right after this. So if you haven't checked that out, please have a look at that as well. Thank you.